Welcome to the NemoVote podcast. I'm Aaron, CEO of NemoVote, and today I brought Nelia Smith with me. She's from the World Sailing Organization. Nelia, maybe we can start right away and you can introduce yourself and World Sailing.
Excited to be here. My name is Nelia. As Aaron said, I'm the Director of International Relations and Brand at World Sailing. And for those of you who are not familiar with World Sailing, we are the governing body for the sport of sailing. And we are also recognized by the International Olympic Committee as one of their Summer Olympic federations. So that's where I fit into the picture.
So, Nelia, you are using NemoVote for online voting. What do you use NemoVote for? And how often do you use NemoVote?
We started using NemoVote in March, I think. We spent quite some time looking for a voting solution that we could implement across the federation. The federation relies, number one, on a large volunteer structure in terms of committees, commissions, council, board. And obviously, these people sit all around the world and we require them to regularly meet online. And with those meetings comes a formal decision-making process. It was very informal before we started using NemoVote, but I guess sometimes because of the nature of the subjects, we do require formal vote recording. And we were really looking for a platform that, number one, we can embed across the federation, not only for the staff to use, but also for the volunteers when they're having meetings, when they need to formally record decisions, which there are a lot of. So we looked at a number of platforms and arrived with NemoVote for a number of reasons, which I'm sure we'll discuss a little bit later. But we are now using NemoVote across all of the staff functions, across all of our volunteer structures. As I mentioned, those are committee meetings, commissions, and also the council meetings, which is apart from the General Assembly, the most formal gathering of stakeholders. So that happens on a quarterly basis, and the main meetings being in November at our annual conference.
So that's probably quite common for most sports organizations, right? To have like several of those formal meetings, but also informal meetings where you need to, make some decisions in any way. How often do you run elections during the year?
So in World Sailing case, we have 149 member countries, which make up the voters at the General Assembly. But the main decision-making bodies for us is obviously the World Sailing Council. That consists of 42 members, including our board. And these are all individuals sitting all over the world, and they represent clusters of countries. And they meet quarterly throughout the year. And then obviously we have the General Assembly, which meets at the end of the year at our annual conference, which also moves around the world. Particularly those bodies require formal decision-making platforms.
So before you used NemoVote, you didn't vote analog, right? You voted with Lumi, I think.
So a lot of it was quite informal. So, we use Microsoft Teams for our online meetings. So on a committee and commission level, people would generally use the chat or the poll function, which came with its own challenges. I'm sure if you're not working off the same version or the latest version of the platform, there's a challenge. And then we tried to use the same functions in the council meetings, which was also quite a challenge. We only really used a formal independent voting system when there was quite an important or contentious vote on the table. So yes, and that would be, we used Lumi before, and so does a lot of the other Summer Olympic federations.
Was there a trigger point, or what made you change?
A little bit of history about World Sailing. In 2022, we embarked on a large-scale governance reform, and that really meant large-scale reform for the federation in terms of bringing all decision-making processes up to modern standards and to make it more efficient. So at that point, we knew that we needed number one, a regular voting platform that is consistent across all decision-making platforms and bodies in the federations. And secondly, we knew that we needed to find a more cost-effective way to record formal decisions that were being made. So at that point, we knew we had to go out to market and look for something that could fulfill all of these requirements. And it was at the start of this year that we landed with NemoVote. I should probably say the elections that were conducted last year in Singapore were held under the previous constitution. It was only at the end of 2024 that the new constitution came into effect. So that meant The elections last year were held in paper vote format because voting was only allowed by in-person attendance. So we have an independent election panel and they confirmed that it was fine to do it by paper vote. We knew this couldn't be the case moving forward because the new constitution does require us to facilitate hybrid voting. So that's one of the points that we looked at when we selected the voting platform.
How did you first come across NemoVote?
Yes, so we conducted a online search, but we were also recommended by associations which has used the platform informally before, and they quite enjoyed it. So we then decided to touch base with them, listen to their experience, and we were satisfied enough to get in touch with you, obviously, at the time that we did.
Oh, that's so good. So I'm always asking the question on what's your favorite feature in NemoVote?
I should say broadly, and it's not a particular feature, which I will mention in a minute, but the absolute simplicity of the platform is such a delight because we are used to a stakeholder group that doesn't necessarily engage with technology that often and has challenges engaging with some of the systems that we propose. And we've had none of that with NemoVote. So my first and foremost keyword for the platform is simplicity, and I absolutely love it. But I think the feature that I enjoy the most is the break the seal on the voting results. And we don't use it for things like the General Assembly, but very much on committee level, where we allow a period of voting and we don't look at the votes, and only once the vote is closed, the staff member breaks the seal and sees what the result is.
That you mentioned simplicity is like, it warms my heart because we always try to focus on simplicity in NemoVote. So was that the reason in the end why you decided for NemoVote?
For us that wanted to embed the platform across the federation, the simplicity issue is key because that means I'm not a bottleneck for people to use the system, which often can happen. So we load all of our staff members onto the platform. They administer and facilitate their own voting during their committee meetings. I obviously do it for the bodies I'm responsible for within council and the board. So that really is more than half of the decision making that's considered when we decided what platform to take up.
So you're also using for that the new organizer feature, right?
We have been using it very successfully, and that really is suitable for us because of the number of people that we have using it, but not necessarily all of them need access to all of the voter lists and all of the voting results, etc. You can imagine in an organization like us where we have more than 30 committees, commissions and volunteer bodies. So once you start populating those votes and the volume of meetings, does become quite a lot. So this feature really allowed us to kind of compartmentalize for the staff using the platform.
That's so good because we did develop it right before we onboarded you, and we were super happy that it would also give you a benefit. Talking about the onboarding, like how was the onboarding for you, the implementation, setup, support? Did you need any training?
I think once you're in the system, it's so easy to navigate your way around, so that we didn't need any additional watching of materials or videos or manuals or anything like that. And I think the other thing that really helped us was the response rate. When we did have questions, it was kind of immediate. If we did have questions, we'd send across an email or things and we'd hear back within 5 or 10 minutes. So it's really helped us along the way.
I was very intrigued on seeing how it works for you. How was your first election?
In July, we used NemoVote the first time at our council meeting. That in the call, 40 was present and no one of them had difficulty to sign on or cast their vote, which is really, really not that common. We normally have to have a number of staff that's offline assisting people that can't get in, that can't vote. So in terms of that experience, it was really pleasant and really positive. And I guess it's helpful that we use the same platform across the federation because there's obviously overlap in the roles that the volunteers fulfill. And by the time they get to the council meeting, they would have engaged with the platform more likely than not at a committee level, at a commission level. So that was really our aim, to make sure that by the time we get to the elections in November, that people have extensively used the platform, they know it, they trust it, and that we can really run a fair and transparent election.
Yeah, I mean, fair and transparent elections, that's what NemoVote is made for. Now, you probably are able to have like a first feedback compared to the systems you used before. What were like the biggest improvements?
We didn't have to compromise on quality. And normally, when you're downgrading yourself in terms of cost, you have to compromise somewhere. In this case, we didn't. And I guess the second thing for me is the fact that we are able to operate the system. And by we, I mean the staff members. We don't have to rely on the owners coming in every time to use it, which obviously comes with a large cost. But it also means that we can improve that governance across the federation in terms of fair and transparent voting that is managed professionally. So those are the two things that really, really have made a difference for me since we made the switch over. I would recommend NemoVote to other sports organizations, whether it be federations, whether it be national Olympic committees, or even our own members. The system is super efficient, it's super simple to use, and it just allows you to create that level of good governance across a company that has so many stakeholders with interests. So absolutely can recommend it. And like I said, our experience has been very positive, and we're moving into the elections, and no doubt we'll have further feedback after that.
I'm very much looking forward to that. So Nelia, thank you for your time. Thank you for participating in our NemoVote podcast. This was a very interesting one to see, like, how is World Sailing using NemoVote? How could it be interesting for other sports organizations? Because what stood out to me is that you have so many committees. So thank you for that, Nelia Smith from World Sailing. Please feel free, if you have any questions, to write some comments. I'm Aaron from NemoVote. See you at your next election.